Evil is not an absence of good, it's not a choice. Evil is one of two forces in the cosmos, an agency locked in eternal struggle against its antithesis. Only good and evil exist, and not even a hair's width of space separates them. Vecna. Stranger Things Season 4 is like the Terminator 2 of Stranger Things. It improves on the original in every way possible while retaining the original, yet also reinventing it entirely. Stranger Things Season 4 is a masterpiece and one of the best seasons of any show I've seen in years. Stranger Things is so effective because it's a sort of perfect amalgamation of past entertainment programming and pop culture symbols. So much has overt references to past pop culture of the 80s and before.
I remember Goonies. I loved Goonies.
But I also think a lot of it actually operates at a subconscious level, with subtle things activating those latent memories, like Papa's float tank machine with Eleven.
Right, Andy.
This will contain spoilers, so just warning. Season 4 feels like a perfect marriage between Season 1, Nightmare on Elm Street, and It. One Henry or Vecna's left hand is oversized compared to the right. Symbolically, the left hand can be used to symbolize the dark spiritual path. The left-hand path is dark occultism, or dark magic, Vecna being a dark wizard.
Vecna. Hail, Lord Vecna.
In Western esotericism, the left-hand path and right-hand path are the dichotomy between the two opposing approaches to magic. This terminology is used in various groups involved in the occult and ceremonial magic. In some definitions, the left-hand path is equated with malicious black magic or black shamanism.
Missing his left arm, but his left arm.
Other practitioners state that the difference between the two is that the desired outcome of the right is to be beside God and to serve Him, while the left believe in self-deification and bow to no one, which sounds like Vecna. Season 4 I think might even be better than Season 1. It feels like it has even more depth, and the child actors are more in adulthood, able to give far more range. Well, most of them. Max has definitely become one of the strongest actors of the show, taking on a depth of story and emotional weight and realness beyond most. Her near-death experience with Vecna was pretty fucking intense and pretty emotional, I do admit. Eddie, I think, is also one of the strongest and likable characters in the show. At first, he did seem a little over the top for me, but manages to become super lovable and relatable. One criticism I do have for this show is the bullying of Eleven is pretty over the top. It's somewhat unrealistic. Yeah, there is super mean bullies out there, but typically don't gain the entire support of the school or the entire skating rink and the rink's DJ when tormenting nerds.
Bye, baby. Bye, baby dad.
Like, in reality, there would be far more pushback against the horrifically mean humiliation. The milkshake and the song at the skating rink shit was so beyond terrible, I was actually laughing at its absurdity just because my brain couldn't handle it. But I do acknowledge it's probably supposed to parallel carry the horror film and progress Eleven's plot, but still just goes a little too far for me and takes me out of it. The skate attack scene, though, is pretty amazing. I would have supported Eleven 100% turning every last person bullying in the skating rink into mashed potatoes. A theory I have or suggestion for the show's writing is to reveal the bullying was partly induced by Vecna, psychically influencing the collective bullying through the hive mind in order to break down and fuck with Eleven. As it was Henry or Vecna who also had a role in crafting the bullying from the other kids in Big Papa's Rainbow Funland. This has the potential to have a perfectly explained parallel between the two groups of bullying. Stranger Things blends so many real-world conspiracies together perfectly. The whole satanic panic of the 80s, I do think in many instances that could be a result of exaggerated hysteria. But at the same time, I also think on the other side of things, there is very real dark twisted shit that really occurs, and reality is in the middle ground. Like the Hellfire Club was entirely a real group made of elite types dabbling in the taboo. Stranger Things has a clever way of blending these concepts together in a very balanced way, showing many angles of how things might be perceived. Like the jocks hunting Eddie, it's entirely plausible as to why they would see things in this way, thinking it's Satan himself. In a way, they weren't really wrong, aside from not realizing Eddie has nothing to do with it. But at the same time, to think that all Dungeons and Dragons players are fully in a cult is pretty idiotic. And similar types of sensationalistic thinking does occur, and I am probably guilty of it myself. The 4 kills of Vecna were clearly meant to parallel the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, some basic symbolism. 1 versus 11, the names and titles almost are like a metaphysical binary code, like 11 was the inevitable consequence of 1's chaotic unlimited power, aka evil. 11 being like 1 in many ways, but a progression beyond 1. I might be getting a little too abstract on this, but the show deals with some deeply metaphysical questions and concepts. Every name and label seems to have an exact purpose. I think Mike and El together was initially meant to symbolize Archangel Michael, Mike El. Mike is the heart, the fighting of a sort of demonic force. A fun pop culture Easter egg, probably unnoticed by a lot of people, is one of the regulars from the OG Scare Tactics, the older dude stunt driver from the original show, made an appearance as a taxi driver for Murray on his ride to Joyce's house. I do love Dustin on Stranger Things, but the Prank Encounter show on Netflix is actually really bad. Anyways, a little off topic, sorry. So the Rainbow Room is symbolic of the first portal to the Upside Down opening, the concept in Wizard of Oz, somewhere over the rainbow, from one reality to the next, a sort of tornado wormhole of transcendence. Rainbows representing the full spectrum of physical 3D reality, which the numbered children can control. So fitting that's where the first terror in the fabric of reality takes place, between two opposing all-powerful opposite forces, 1 and 11. MK Ultra is directly referenced in Season 1. Very real programs testing mind control, psychedelics, and attempts at psychic phenomenon. I'm sure the primary focus was mind control and social engineering, probably used mainly for corporate advertising. Robert Englund being worked into the show is truly epic, next level shit. The first male Vecna kill's name was Fred, seemed to be a foreshadow for Robert Freddie Englund arriving in the show. Vecna's voice actually reminds me heavily of the recent Elm Street remake. I actually like that film. I'm sure that's blasphemy for some Freddy fans, but I didn't think it was that bad. Did they intentionally try to give Will a penis head looking haircut? The dude needs to chill out. Mike is clearly straight. Okay, dude? Stop being so sad about it. Shit's getting a little weird. The dude who plays Will, though, his acting is actually really good. I'm not shitting on his acting. I'm just saying the way they're writing character, it's like a little too emotional at times. He needs to just relax. Eddie Munson sounds like Eddie Munster. I was kind of disappointed in how Eddie's death was written. His behavior made sense to me throughout the show, but him running back into the Upside Down and facing the bats, I really didn't see the point of it at the time. I understand they were creating a story arc or a character arc in order to make him face his fears and be a hero, but I just didn't see it as being entirely necessary, and like most people who watched it, I was pretty bummed out. I do have a theory, though, that he will be returning. Vecna's body seemed to have been destroyed by Steve and his crew, so Eddie's body being left behind in the Upside Down, perhaps Vecna will take Eddie's body as a new vessel to live within. This also plays perfectly into Eddie being seen as the murderer by the normie townsfolk and on the news, and on top of it, Eddie being the one who introduced Vecna as Dungeon Master in the original D&D game. That'd be pretty sad to see him come back as being like evil, but I think that might be a logical explanation as to why they killed off his character and wrote his character arc in that way. It's going to be sad to see him come back as evil if he does, but it's like, I do want that actor to come back because he is so talented, so yeah, it's like a double bind. And not to just be a hater, but I think Mike is the weakest actor in the show. The chemistry between Mike and Eleven doesn't feel right to me. Mike seems like he's always having small talk with his friends and family, like he's trying to act. The exact opposite of Dustin and Max that seems so natural. I feel like this is why he was largely kept on the sidelines most of the show. And Eleven, I felt, had a much stronger performance once her head was shaved and she was away from Mike. And I think that about covers it. With lightning striking twice, we'll see if lightning can strike again in the 5th season. Fingers crossed. And anyways, like, share, subscribe, comment below, and bye.